Hello and welcome to Our Year with the Ears, our daily vlog where we relive our year living in the Walt Disney World resorts in 2019. Today is day 238.
This morning, we spent all morning long doing laundry because we are at Saratoga Springs. We have a deluxe studio, so we don't have laundry in the studio, but we do have access to laundry for free here at Saratoga Springs. So we got all of our suitcases, walked up to the front of the resort, and started our loads of laundry. We rotated in and out throughout the morning. One of us would be up there while the other was in the room working. I actually spent a lot of the time roaming around, taking pictures around that area of the activities. They've got a pool table. Of course, they have Surrey bikes as well, which are a lot of fun if you haven't done them before, but once you've experienced them, you never need to do that again.
And you definitely don't need to do it in the summertime. We have learned our lesson there. Maybe do it in January. It might be okay in January.
I guess we need to try that sometime so we can review it and tell you if it's good, but we don't have that experience as of now. So I just walked around taking pictures of things to do, things to see. I saw there was a sign that said you can paint a canvas, and that looked really cool. So there are a lot of things to do here at the resort. So I would rotate through and go out and take some pictures, come back, switch the laundry, and then I would text Robert and say, hey, can you come get this load? He would come up with a suitcase, take it back to the room. It's been a while since we've had laundry, so we are taking advantage of the free laundry so we don't have to pay for it, and we're very grateful that it is free here at Saratoga.
This whole time I was working in the room. I have so many last minute things to try and finalize and work on for the conference in just a couple days, so I am going around like crazy working on stuff, getting on phone calls and Zoom calls and everything else, trying to wrap up the last little details for the conference so I'm not going completely insane while the conference is actually happening.
After all the laundry was finished, I took it back to the room and then I got ready to go check out the pool slides. Saratoga Springs actually has 2 pool slides, and so I wanted to see both of them. So the first one I went to was the main pool slide. There were a lot of people here, which is to be expected because it's the main pool. And I went down the pool slide and it was okay, but it definitely wasn't my favorite pool slide.
Go!
And then I went over to the paddock pool, which is considered a quiet pool, but it has a pool slide. And most people don't realize that because generally at Disney resorts, the quiet pools do not have pool slides. So I went over there. Of course, there are a lot less people because most people don't realize the slide is there. I went down this slide and it is so much more fun. It's faster and I loved this way more. This is the one you need to go to, not the main pool, and then you don't have to wait in line.
After Alyssa did the pool slide, she came back to the room to help me work on some of the conference planning. We were planning to go to a late lunch somewhere here at the resort, but we've been snacking. I have all those snacks from the Halloween party, especially all the Go-Go Squeeze applesauce. So I was like, okay, we'll just put off lunch till a little bit later, and then it became dinner. So we're like, all right, we'll go to dinner in just a little bit. We're gonna wrap up this particular project we're working on, finalize this stuff so we're not in the middle of something when we leave, and then we'll go get dinner. But at 7:30, a huge storm rolled through, and we were like, oh wow, it's a crazy rainstorm outside. We're gonna have to wait till the rain passes until we can go up front to eat. Still working and trying to wrap up the project, and next thing we know, the power flickers off. And this has happened before while we're in the resorts. It flickers off and then a minute or two later comes right back on, but this time the power did not come back on. It just stayed off for several minutes. And we're like, okay, this is really weird because we were here during Hurricane Irma at this resort and never lost power, and yet this random thunderstorm comes through and now suddenly we have no power. We went out on the balcony to kind of look out and see if anybody else's rooms look like they're out of power, and we saw a really pretty rainbow off in the distance, which is cool because the storm just passed and we see a rainbow, but we also saw that nobody else seems to have power and there's people starting to come out of their rooms onto the balconies.
We lost power. That's only happened one time this year and it went off and on again immediately. But we have just been sitting here for the last few minutes with absolutely no power. It's like pitch black in our room.
It's lots of fun when you're trying to work on the internet. We walked out the front of our building to look out at the parking lot and see if maybe the other buildings had power. And it looks like the emergency power's on because all the outside lights on the building are on, but the lights in the parking lot are off and all the lights in the rooms are off. So it's safe to say I think all of these buildings are out of power at this point.
So since it is pitch black in our room and we obviously can't work anymore, it is very hot in here too because there's no air conditioning and it's very dark outside as well. We decided to go to the main building because we assume that they have power and we're really hungry. Our stomachs have been growling and we have definitely put off eating for way too long. We walked over to Turf Club because I looked at the menu there earlier today and it looked so good. We've never eaten there before. So we headed over there and they said, I'm really sorry, we lost power too, so we can't serve you. And we're like, oh, okay, well, we didn't realize that, that's fine. So we went over to the quick service location and they said the exact same thing. At this point, our stomachs are still grumbling. We are super hungry. We have nowhere we can go to eat. And then we get a message from friends over at Disney Springs. They said, hey, the resort looks really dark over there. Did you guys lose power? We're like, yeah, apparently the whole resort did, including the main building. And they said, that's crazy. We lost power at Disney Springs too. We're like, wow, okay, that was going to be our next solution to go get food would be to Disney Springs. So I went up to the main lobby to ask for any recommendations of where we should go because we can't go to another resort to eat because there are no buses that run from resort to resort, which means we basically have to go to a park and then get in the park and then try and get in, which seems like a lot of work. So I went up there to ask where we should go to eat and they said, oh, Disney Springs would be your best bet because it's close and you can go over there. And I was like, do you know they lost power too? And she goes, no, I didn't. Oh my goodness. When did they lose power? I'm like, I don't know. Someone just told me that they did because they're over there. And she goes, I am so sorry. I had no idea. I've been telling everyone to go over there. I'm like, well, I'm really glad I told you this because now you don't have to tell anyone else. So she apologized for recommending that. And she's like, I honestly don't know where to send you all. You're literally going to have to go to a park. And if you want to go to another resort, then you have to go to the park and then go to the resort and vice versa. Like, we are so hungry right now. By the time we do that, we're gonna be starving. She was incredibly sweet and we tried to figure something out. She ended up giving us 2 quick service meals for our inconvenience because we are starving and we have nowhere to eat. We lost power. So that was really sweet. So we do have that for another day. But at this point, we're still hungry and the go-go squeezes and everything else are not holding us over. Well, our friends messaged us and said, hey, there are like 3 small locations that apparently aren't on the grid here that are still open if you guys are still hungry. We're like, yes, we are. We need food, so we're heading over there. Sure enough, we went to Disney Springs and there were like 3 little locations we could go to. The first was BB Wolf's and this did sound good. Sounded like something we could share. They have 12-inch hot dogs here. I mean, at this point, anything sounds good because we're starving. So we stopped here and got the sampler.
It's 3 different hot dogs from 1 foot-long hot dog. There's a chili cheese in the middle, a New York pastrami Reuben on one side, and then on the other side, a pineapple, which is kind of like a Hawaiian salsa mix on there. I was not expecting much from this. It is just a hot dog, but I was really impressed. The hot dog itself was good, and the toppings they put on it were really good. I'm not usually a big Reuben fan, but I really liked the Reuben, and also the pineapple salsa was great, and of course a chili cheese dog, you can't really go wrong with that. We were still kind of hungry after sharing that hot dog, so we looked around to see what else had power, and one of the things was the poutine shop. For whatever reason, they still had power, so we went over there and got a bowl of poutine, which is always good because cheese and gravy and french fries, you cannot go wrong with that. It was awesome. There wasn't really anything else open that had food except Amorette's was open and they have cakes and stuff, but we don't really want dessert. We kind of wanted more food, and now we're just like, you know what? I'm good. We've been hungry for so long. We had a little bit to kind of tide us over. I think we're going to be okay for the night. So we walked across Disney Springs to take the pathway walking back to Saratoga. Thought maybe we'd find something over there, but nothing else had power. It was kind of creepy. Took the walkway over to Saratoga Springs and then walked back to our room. When we got there, we went out and sat on the balcony because it's completely dark in the room. What are we going to do sitting there in the dark? And after a few minutes sitting there on the balcony, the power finally came back on about 10:30. It was crazy. We've never experienced anything like this here at Disney World in any of our trips or at all this year, but we finally got power back. The AC came back on, the lights came back on, so we could wrap up the projects that we were trying to finish on our computers and then head to bed. And that was the end of our day today, so we'll see you tomorrow
For our year with the ears.